When you are hungry for fish, tonight's species is one that you're gonna wanna catch. It makes great nachos, tacos, grilled, or sushi. I love this fish and how hydrodynamic it is. Tonight, it's all about the tunas here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, everyone. We hope everyone sees their window of fishing opportunity during our rainy Memorial Day weekend. But Rick, we're moving on into the last week of May with some great reports in sight, especially for tuna.
You're absolutely right, Brie. And you know, like I said in the open, what a better fish. There's no better fish to eat. I really love fresh caught tuna. And I'm really excited to hear about what the captains have to say in their respective regions.
Yes, me too. Well, Rick, we couldn't have our Tuna Fest without our CCA Workbench wonder, Dave Farrell. Dave, you ready with some tuna tips over there?
I want the tuna nacho recipe.
Me too.
I heard that in the opening, and I would like to see the tuna nacho recipe. Sounds delicious.
It is delicious.
Tuna nachos, tuna tacos.
They're nachos. They're
I
mine. That's what I say.
Nachos.
Okay, let's start this Tuna Fest off in the Fish Bites East region, where the sharks love sushi just as much as you do. So once you hook up, be ready to reel for your life and your dinner. Talk to us, Mike.
Isn't that the truth, Brie? Every May, the blackfin tuna bite, it starts to heat up as the fish run with the bonita schools that migrate into the area. The best action has been in Palm Beach County in anywhere from 100 to 300 feet of water directly off the Breakers Hotel. And the guys are doing best are live chumming with filters. But the sharks have been bad when you're in close. If you can raise those fish, if you can push out a little deeper to like 250 feet of water as opposed to like 100, 150, 200, you got a better shot of landing one of those tuna. Most of the tuna are in that 20 to 30 pound class, all blackfin tuna. There's been smaller schoolies off Push Button Hill and St. Lucie Inlet. Now, blackfin, if you want yellowfin instead of blackfin, you need to make the 65-mile run over to the northern area of the Bahamas, just north of the Bahamas in the area they call the Corner or the Pocket, just north of Manila Shoals. Once there, you watch your radar for flocks of birds, then run to the birds, put out a spread of either naked ballyhoo, cedar plugs, or I like to fish purple-colored lip plugs and pull them really fast. Average yellowfin in that area is going to be 30 to 60 pounds, but fish to 90 pounds or more caught. I got a photo, gives you an idea of what those fish look like. That's Glenn Cameron on the Floridian charter boat out of Stewart. He stabbed that tuna over there in the Bahamas, and that fish ate a naked ballyhoo. The other thing going on, the reef bite from mangrove snappers starting to heat up in 65 to 75 foot along the ledges from Bethel Shoals all the way south to the St. Lucie power plant. The best bite's been at night, really for the big fish, but there's been plenty of snapper feeding during the day as well. You want to anchor up, get the chum line going, then drop down a cigar minnow, a Spanish sardine, a pilchard, or even a chunk of squid. If you've got some live pilchards, you can chum the fish up closer to the surface, then drop back a livey on 20 to 40 pound tackle with a 50 pound fluorocarbon leader and a 4.0 trocar circle hook. Average mangrove is going to be 2 to 4 pounds, but there's a lot of 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10 pound fish in the mix. I got a photo just to give you an example. Greg Weissman, he caught that nice mangrove snapper. He caught that in 55 feet of water, fishing out of Jupiter with Captain Butch Constable, and that fish ate a live pilchard.
Let's go inshore, bub.
Well, you know, this is the last weekend to catch a snook for dinner before the spring season closes on my coast. That closes on Monday. There's been a good push of fish to the inlets and to the beaches around the inlets. And with the rain earlier in the week, all those spillways are running, so there'll be fish at the spillway. A lot of fish around the beach and the inlets are those smaller males that are sort of the first ones to show up for the summer spawn. But there are some larger slot and even overslot fish mixed in with those males. You just got to pick through them a little bit. You can target those fish with a live pilchard or a threadfin, or early and late in the day when you got that low light or on the rainy day, you want to throw a copper juice colored saltwater assassin 4-inch sea shad. I like to put a 1/4 ounce jig head on that. Sometimes I'll even go to 3/8 just to get it down a little bit and cast it along the trough. If you're looking for a big fish, Taylor Creek in Fort Pierce, the Juneau Pier, the Jupiter Spillway, and the Ermine River in Palm Beach County, they're all good places to throw topwater plugs or a swimming plug or even fish a live mullet, throw it up against the shoreline or up against the seawall or around the docks. Those fish are really focused on the mullet run. So watch the schools of mullet getting busted along the shorelines. If you see that, move right to that area and fish that area. Average snip's going to be 4 to 15 pounds, but fish to 25 pounds being caught right now. I have a photo of Drake Kesterson. He used the live mullet to catch that sloth-sized snook. He caught it along a mangrove shoreline south of Fort Pierce, and that fish was released. The other bite, if you're catching a big sea trout is on your bucket list, this is the best time of year to target those big fish, either up on the flats or along the shorelines. Some of the better places include Queens Cove, Peachstone's Bar, and the docks along the west bank of the Indian River from the old fort in Fort Pierce south towards Savannah Road. Just like snook, the trout are pretty much focused on mullet. To start your day, throwing topwater plugs or a saltwater assassin dye dapper in the mullet or the Panhandle moon colors. And then it's school trout actions. It's been strong on the mooring flat and around the spoil islands on the west side of the intercoastal, just north of Harbor Branch. There's been a good topwater trout bite also off the mouth of Big Mud Creek, right at first light. Average sea trout's 2 to 4 pounds, but there's fish to 10 pounds being caught, so big trout right now.
All right, Mike, we got to know about the bass. It'll be interesting to see if all this fresh water has changed things. What do you think?
Well, it's interesting. As much rain as we've gotten, they're still drawing down Lake Tahoe. So despite the rain, the water levels are down about 3 feet lower than what it normally is. And that's pushed a lot of the bass off the shorelines and got them concentrated out in the deeper areas of the lake around the submerged shell beds that are out in open water. I was talking to Captain Steve Ninemiller of BassOnline.com. He's saying the bite's been early and late in the day, throwing shad-colored lipless crankbaits or fishing a Carolina rig, June bug, or green pumpkin-colored worm directly on top of the shells. Now, there's still a good school bite in the evenings, getting in the grass, in the Kissimmee grass, fishing a Florida frog-colored logger toad. You want to be all the way back in the back of Goblet's Cove where it starts to narrow down a little bit. If you're looking for a big fish, you can flip that thick hydrilla mat out in the open water with a green pumpkin-colored heavy punch craw, or work the edges of those mats with a live shiner. Rain drops the water temperature, so if it rains in the afternoon, the bass bite in the afternoon all the way up to dark has been fantastic. Average bass on tow is 1 to 3 pounds, but they're catching them up to about 7 pounds right now.
Well, great report, Holiday, from the Fish Bites East region. Now it's time to take a look at the T&H Marine hotspots from the East region. He says inshore, over slot snook in Taylor Creek, live mullet or topwater plugs from the mouth of the creek to the railroad bridge. And then offshore, kingfished on the Loran Tower ledge, slow troll or drift Spanish sardines on an R&R kingfish rig, Brie.
I think I'm gonna go catch some snook with Mike this weekend.
I think you should with all that attitude. I
out
saw
in
that
universe.
neck going.
Oh, I got it. I want to catch a snook, man.
Well.
All right, now let's go to our LV Reels Northeast Region Captain, Tommy Derringer, on screen for some tuna talk. So talk to us, Tommy.
That's right, Brie. As you know, I'm mostly an inshore guy, but I'm so glad that I have a lot of friends that like to catch tuna because, like you guys were saying, they're definitely one of the best ones to eat. And we have a great fishery here in the Alvey Sidecast Reels Northeast region for blackfin tuna in particular. The best time of year to target those fish is when the water's a little cooler, usually winter to early spring, and we'll have another little run of them heading into the fall. Now, most anglers are going to target those tuna right on the ledge in about 180 to 200 feet of water. Now, they can be very much structure-oriented fish, at least up here, and you're going to want to look for those structures that are holding a good amount of bait. A common technique is going to be to pull a cedar plug in like blue or white, or a ballyhoo rigged with sea witches, or a variety of other lures. Now, you really want to run those plugs way back, somewhere in that 100 to maybe 200 yard range. Those tunas can be boat shy and definitely a little spooky. Now, something the offshore captains, they always tell me, is that it almost always seems like the rougher the ocean is, the better that tuna fish bite's going to be. Probably has something to do with making them a little less shy. Now, we do have some yellowfin tuna around as well, and you can occasionally catch them in those same areas you'll find the blackfin, but if you really want to target those guys, you're looking at a longer run to the east side of the Gulf Stream. And speaking of yellowfin tuna, I've got a picture. This is Allison Wren with a big yellowfin tuna that she caught on the east side of the Gulf Stream out of Jacksonville.
All right, what else you got for us offshore, bub?
Wait, Rick, we got mahi, man. We got mahi and mahi. You know, I got to keep rolling with it this week because that's what the guys are really getting into out there. They're wide open right now throughout the region. I spoke to Captain Jason Hadges from jfishingcharters.com and Jimmy Laidler from thelegendfishing.com. They both report easy limits of mahi over the last week, with the average fish being about 10 to 15 pounds, with some really big ones mixed, and I've seen some monster ones come to the dock. Now, Captain Jason said he's mostly targeting the temperature and current breaks, but there have been some good weeds stacking up with this southeast wind we've had. You know, basically, if you're looking to catch a big mahi, right now is a great time to book a trip and get offshore. And speaking of those big mahi, I got another picture here. Captain Jason sent me this picture of his client, Joe Hassan, with a mahi that was about 50 pounds they caught east of St. Augustine.
Nice.
Now, moving inshore, guys, there's some really big trout showing themselves in the northeast region this week, kind of like in Mike's region. You know, I've had all kinds of reports of gator trout being caught, and we have a really great tide to get out at first light and target some of those big fish with a topwater or subsurface plug. Mid-outgoing tide will be happening right at sunup this weekend, and those trout are going to be fired up. Now, the trout have been holding along the oyster bar edges and the drop-offs along the ICW in St. Augustine, especially around the concentrations of bait, and the shell bars from Pine Island south of the Volano Bridge along the ICW have been great at first light. Now, if tossing a plug really isn't your thing, you know, a live shrimp under a float, it's also going to catch some of those trout, but the bigger fish, they're probably going to be looking for something big to eat, like a plug or a big live mullet. Now, I spoke to my buddy Captain Buzz Brandon from NortheastFloridaAngling.com. He tells me the trout have been chewing on the incoming tide around Nassau Sound in about 6 to 8 feet of water around the old bridge rock piles and some other structures in that area. Now, Captain Buzz has been using a saltwater assassin sea shad in that mama's chicken color, and he's putting that on a 1/4 ounce jig head for those trout. Now, also inshore, guys, you know, the flounder, they've steadily been on the increase over the last few weeks, both in size and numbers of fish being caught. Now, the bigger fish still seem to be hanging close to the inlets, but there have been some bigger ones showing up in the backcountry areas as well. The smaller runouts in some of the bigger creeks in St. Augustine, they've been holding those flounder on the last of the outgoing tide, and the docks around all the area inlets have been holding flounder, as well as some nice redfish in there too. Now, use a finger mullet or a large mud minnow on a fish finder rig or a jig head that's heavy enough to hold the bottom around those docks. I spoke to Captain Jeff Patterson. He also reports that the flounder are stacking up along the rocks in Ponce Inlet and around the docks north towards Daytona. He said those flounder are averaging about 2 to 4 pounds, and he's catching those on some big mud minnows. And I've got one last picture here. This is my good buddy, Eddie Cabler, with a pair of doormat flounder from up there in Jacksonville that he caught on a Fish Bites paddle tip.
Nice.
Wow, that's a twofer.
Great pictures this week, Tommy. We appreciate it very much. The studio away from home looks great, so good to have you. Yeah, Studio B, exactly.
There you go.
All right, Bub, it's time. We got to take a look at the strike zone northeast hotspots. He says inshore, flounder and redfish in and around all the area inlets. Fish around the slack tides along the jetties and docks with finger mullet on the bottom. And then offshore, mahi are on fire throughout the entire region. Look for the temperature and current breaks, as well as the weed lines starting at about 130 feet of water.
Man, tuna, dolphin, flounder, there's some big fish coming out of the Alvey Reels Northeast region. Hey.
Yep.
Okay, anglers, the Keys region is waiting for the tuna taking next, but up first, we're trolling by the CCA workbench for rigs and techniques with Dave Farrell. Dave,
Yeah.
what are you trolling with?
This thing's so pretty, I want to eat it. Look at that thing.
I'd eat that.
That is
Tuna's
pretty.
going to chow
You would
on
make
that.
a good
Yeah, man.
sashimi.
Looks like a
though,
flying
Dave.
fish. We're going to talk about what those tuna are eating.
Dave, you look like a sushi roll.
I do, don't I?
Oh,
We'll be back.
not nice.
A good one.
Not nice.
Yummy one.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Contender Boats, always in the game. Noble Air Charters, raising the bar yet again. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Sirius XM Marine, weather, fishing info, and channel surfing. And Daiquiri Deck, Sarasota's favorite place to meet.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection 4-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO Offshore.
Why is Casa Vieja Lodge on everyone's bucket list?
Left teaser. Left flat as well. 2 fish. They're everywhere. Right flat teaser as well. Left flat, right flat teaser.
Come to Casa Vieja Lodge and check it off your list.
Well, we're here at the CCA workbench, and it's time for the Academy Sports and Outdoors Rigs and Techniques. Dave and Tuna, I can tell you know a lot about. We got
Tuna
more
tonight. Well,
yeah.
I get to see him every once in a while, so we used to see him a lot more often. But they're great to catch. You know, in Florida, we get quite a few different ones. You know, we get to catch the yellowfin, the blackfin, the skipjack, and the bonitas. A lot of guys like to eat the black fins. You know, I'm not a big fan of them. I like yellowfin tunas. That's what I'm fishing for when I'm fishing for tunas. I think skipjack's even better than the blackfin tuna. But and there's guys who will eat those bonitas too, and they'll argue with me all day about how great they are. But I'm not eating those either. You can have them if you want to. Those little tunnies, they call them. And there's always a big school of those little tunnies out in front of Jupiter. And so that's where a lot of fellas, I mean, people come from the Northeast. They come down here to catch those little tunies on the fly rod and everything. They're a big deal. They fight hard. They, like all tunas, they fight to the end. And that's you know, one thing you can count on from a tuna fish. It will fight you till the end. They have that dark red meat, so they have incredible stamina. They have those big sickle tails, so they can swim fast. They are one of the biggest and most ferocious predators in the ocean besides the marlin. Mm-hmm. I mean, they are an extreme predator, and they can swim so fast. And they're also one of them have the biggest eyes and some of the best vision of any fish. They can see colors unlike blue marlin. They can see all kinds of colors and stuff. So color actually does, that's one of the things when people ask me about what color you should pull, that's one time when you should start to pay attention a little bit, because yellowfin, if you got a lot of stuff out there of one color and there's a different color and they keep biting that different one, change out.
Change everything to
because
that color.
That's what they're wanting to eat. And that's another good thing about tuna fish. When you find the tunas, you know, one of the biggest things about getting a tuna to bite is matching what is eating. Whatever it is eating at that time, and the size of it especially.
Okay, so what are we typically going to use?
Well, you hear a lot of times a guy will go chugging by a bunch of tuna fish with a ballyhoo and on an island lure like this, which normal times, you know, everything would pile on that.
Right.
But if the tunas are eating a lot of stuff like that's this big, with no ballyhoo behind it, and you come pulling through there, they're going to bite that because that's the size of the thing that they're eating. If they're eating big things, then you pull big things. If you can't see what the tuna are eating and they're all splashing around and just going crazy, they're not out there, you know, that's not frivolity. They're not having a good time. They're eating something. So it could be little tiny things that you can't see. And if that's the case,
so
then you need
when little things like this come into play.
You need to drop down your sizes until, you know, you can put a number 5/0 hook in there, an extra strength eagle claw, you know, a live bait hook even, and put a little lead weight in that octopus skirt and a little 5/0 hook behind it, right at the end of the skirt. Boom, you'll get a bite. And you can catch 40, 60, 80-pound tunas on those little double X hooks, and you'll get bit, which is the most important thing with tunas, is trying to get bit.
Now, is fluorocarbon, like this diamond presentation, is that important, Dave?
Yes, usually because they can see so good, especially during the daytime, you're going to want to use fluorocarbon. And if you're using if you're chunking for these fish, you know, you can pull up and chum real heavy, like Mike Holliday was saying out here. You can chum real heavy with some pilchards, but you want to use fluorocarbon, because if you're chunking and that little bait is floating down with the rest of the stuff, that yellowfin can get a good eyeball on it. And if he can see that leader, he's not going to eat it. If he can see your hook sometimes, he won't eat it. In the Northeast, a lot of guys will go to great lengths to try to hide the whole hook inside of a big butterfish or a bait, because the yellowfin will see it and get skittish and not come near it. Anytime you use any little lure that looks like a flying fish, you're probably in a good area, because tuna fish love to eat flying fish. When you're off on the other side of the Gulf Stream on the east coast of Florida, you're looking for birds and bait busting and stuff like that. If you see that big column of birds floating in the air, that means there's usually skipjack and yellowfin tunas mixed in with them. And if you go trolling by with that little flying fish imitator, you're probably going to get a bite.
What else do you typically, what about vertical jigging when the metal jigs came out?
Yeah, when you mark those fish down deep, you know, a lot of times the tuna will hang deep during the day and come up in the morning and at dusk, but that doesn't mean that those tuna won't eat sometimes. If they're down there on the bait and you're marking bait down and you're marking big tunas down there too, you can drop vertical jigs down there and jig those tuna up, or even a bait. And if you're trolling, you know, you can use a planer. If you're not getting any bites, say, and you know, you've gone maybe 10, 11 passes by there, throw something smaller on a planer and get it down. And sometimes they'll come up. They won't come all the way to the surface, but sometimes they'll come up, you know, to 30 feet of the surface where you can be pulling a planer and get a bite.
So do you find stuff with jet head stuff better than others, or do they like it a little more stealthy?
Jets work because they stay in the water. They're heavier heads and they stay in the water and go down. Jets don't make bubbles unless they break the surface.
Got it.
Everybody thinks that a jet head's putting out bubbles underneath the water. He ain't making a bubble until he comes up to the top and then gets a breath and then pushes it out through those jets.
I learned something there. It's not like Brie. She's definitely going to be making bubbles under the surface until she gets to the top, right, Brie?
Yeah.
Wouldn't we all be? Come on now. Wish I was a fish. But anyways, we're headed into the Keys region to talk to Randy Tao, and the humps ring a bell. So Randy, talk to us about the tuna bite.
Hey, good evening, fish fans. You know, here in the Garmin Keys region, we've got blackfin tuna offshore this time of year, and it really depends where in the Keys you're fishing, because it's a little bit different if you're up in the Upper Keys or Marathon or Key West. Now, the traditional way are guys that go offshore around the humps and they troll a dark feather or the eels. I like to use the eels myself because you can go nice and slow, and sometimes you catch multiples at a time with the eels. And that's a good way to catch dinner. You know, not often do you catch big ones, but you're going to catch them nonetheless if you troll for them around some of these humps. Now, you can also live bait. Guys will go out there with 500, 1,000 pilchards, and they'll chum up current of the hump, and as they drift over it, they'll put their live baits out, and that's a good way to catch a 30-pounder, but you're also enticing the predators like the sharks, and you might not catch all the fish you hook because you're making everything into a frenzy. And therefore, sometimes if the sharks are there, it's hard to catch a big one. And then you get down in Key West, and those guys do it all different ways. They catch them on the wreck, they catch them on the reef, and they catch them behind the shrimp boats, which is a lot of fun to do. If you've never done that, some of the best fishing is behind the shrimp boats in Key West. And guys like Captain Chris Trossett with Real Fly Charters out of Key West, he really specializes in light tackle fishing, whether it's, you know, with a light rod or with a fly rod. He knows how to tease them. He knows how to get those fish behind the boat. And don't disregard a skipjack. A lot of people think they're a bonita. They're not a bonita. They're a tuna, and they are as good to eat as the blackfin tuna. And I have a photo of Chris's anglers with a nice big blackfin they caught in Key West.
Nice. All right. What else you got for us offshore, Cap?
it's dolphin time. You know, here again, if you're offshore on some of these humps, you're far enough to find the dolphin. And, you know, this past week conditions weren't the best because of the weather. But nonetheless, there's still some dolphin around. You want to look for those birds. You want to look for weeds. You want to look for things that's going to favor some bait that's going to entice the dolphin. And when it's really overcast, it's kind of hard to get lined up on the birds because they don't like flying in the rain. Imagine that. But when it clears up, you can certainly find the birds. And about 600 feet right now is about the average depth where guys are starting to look for these birds flying. And you know, you want to read the birds because they're really going to help you as far as what you're dealing with. If they're small fish, if they're big fish, are there a lot of birds? That means there's a lot of fish. If there's few birds, there's lesser fish and they're bigger. And you want to be prepared. I tell people that go dolphin fishing, you can't rig up your rod when you're in the middle of a school of dolphin. You better have everything ready to go when that time comes. And I was talking to Captain Brian Cohn on the Contagious. He's really the dolphin expert in the Keys. He catches more than anybody in the Keys. And he sent me this picture of his anglers, Matt and Michelle, with a nice bull dolphin they caught.
Nice. All right, let's go inshore, Pop.
It's tarpon time, Rick. Here we are. You know, the tournaments are right around the corner. And the tarpon are still around pretty good. They're around the bridges. They're on the ocean side. You know, we don't get a real heavy run in the backcountry because we have them around the bridges. And we're dealing with the migrating fish right now. And they're pretty plentiful. Even though we had a big worm hatch, there's still quite a few tarpon around. And the fly guys, I'll tell you what, it's been a great year for the fly fishing guys. They've had a lot of shots. I mean, they're so thick, I've gone out and caught one myself. So there's been a lot of tarpon that guys are fishing for, sight fishing on the ocean. And certainly the bridges are holding fish with crabs and mullet still. And Captain Pablo Rodriguez with Slam Time Charters at a marathon, he was doing just that the other day, and he sent me this monster tarpon he caught on his fly rod.
Nice. That's a good one. All right, Bub. One more to go. What do you have?
You know, you've heard me talk about bonefish maybe a few times, and that's rare because bonefish and I don't really have the relationship we should because they're not very nice. You know, you work hard, you chase these things, and they end up getting you in the end, and you don't catch any. But sometimes you get back at them, and you can catch them, and it's been pretty good with the conditions lately. Guys are finding quite a few bonefish around the upper Keys, even also down in the Marathon. A small crab works really well. A shrimp right now is still working pretty good. As we get into the summer, the crabs are better, but they're still biting the shrimp fairly well. And they're not big. You know, they're not monster bonefish like we used to catch, but nonetheless, there's been plenty around lately, and I talk about that because that's been an exciting fish. Certainly, if you've never caught one, it's been a pretty good run the last few weeks with good bone fishing, which is really nice to see. I've got a photo of Bob from England, and this was one of his 13 he caught in the rain fishing on a recent trip to the Keys.
Wow, that's a great deal. That's 13 bonefish in one day. I don't care how big or little they are. That's a great day. All right, Bub, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Sunset Inn hotspots from the Florida Keys region. He says inshore bonefish looked at the midday on the high tide for schools of mudding fish and noticed the off-colored water where the fish are mudding. And then offshore yellowtails look for the current, and then anchor your boat from 70 to 90 feet of water and begin chumming. And don't forget to be patient.
I know why Bob caught so many bonefish.
Why?
It's because he has an English accent.
Oh, is that what it is?
His British accent, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, right. Also coming up in the Keys region.
She finally showed up. I've been waiting 9 weeks.
The Key West Marlins tournament, July 22nd through July 25th, and is limited to the first 75 boats only. This year's tournament is featuring $50,000 in guaranteed cash prizes and coincides with the annual Hemingway Days celebration in Key West. To enter and find out more information, head over to keywestmarlin.com, and good luck.
Good to see tournaments coming back to the Florida Keys. Way to go, guys.
Yes. All right, we're getting our tuna on in the Bell Central East and Garmin Panhandle region next, so stay hooked on the one and only Florida Insider
Fishing Report.
Yes. Here.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure. Garmin, join the club. Florida Coast Equipment, Florida's largest Kubota dealership, serving Southeast and Southwest Florida and Florida's Space and Treasure Coasts. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm a life member of CCA. Why am I so involved with CCA, you ask? Because I want our fisheries to be in better shape for my kids and their kids. CCA is working to ensure the future of recreational fisheries and the rights of recreational anglers. The future of fishing starts today with you. How do you want to leave things with your kids? If you're like me, you'll want to make the right choice and go to joinccaflorida.com right now.
Real Legends Performance Clothing. Everything you need to be comfortable on the water all day long. Keeps you cool, dry, and protected from the sun. Durable performance technology at an unbeatable value. Shop anytime or go to reallegends.com to find a Bell store near you.
Every year, Noble Air Charter flies over 20,000 outdoorsmen and families just like you, economically, to over 300 Bahamian and Florida destinations. Noble Air Charter makes a substantial investment improving booking and aircraft route planning to create the most affordable and economical flight possible. And tomorrow, Noble Air's team will rise to the challenge to raise the bar yet again.
Navigating at night can be dangerous, even for the most experienced drivers. With over 400,000 pixels, Night Track makes it possible to navigate in the dark with confidence. Night Track seamlessly interfaces with all multifunction displays, 2013 or newer, and offers boaters or the outdoorsman peace of mind at an affordable price. For more information, call 251-605-9100.
Dive into scallop season and become part of a tradition in Crystal River and Homosassa. Scalloping is like an Easter egg hunt, Florida style. Dive into the warm, shallow waters of the Gulf of Mexico and fill your bag with delectable bay scallops. And don't worry about dinner, a local restaurant will cook your catch. Discover Crystal River invites you to plan your scallop season adventure from July 1st through September 24th at discovercrystalriverfl.com.
Brie, dive down.
Did you see my little SeaWorld flip there?
Yeah, dive her down.
It's like flipper. That was good. All right, now let's get our Bell Central East Region Captain Jim Roth up here on the screen for the Weekend Tuna Report and more. Tell us how we're wrapping up the month of May, Jim.
Well, I'll tell you, when anglers in the Central East region think about targeting tuna, they think about really long runs to the other side of the Gulf Stream. And over there, they're going to find yellowfin and blackfin tuna as the primary targets. Now, radar fishing is the way that we go about fishing in the Central East region for tuna when we're over there, because radar allows you to pick up the birds that are feeding over the top of the packs of feeding yellowfin and blackfin tuna. So that's the key thing. Most of these tuna packs are located about 65 to 95 miles offshore, and anglers want to target them with high-speed lures, high-speed skirts, cedar plugs, hard-bodied swimming plugs. These are really good options to get out in front of the schools of feeding fish with. Now, one tip to catch multiple fish instead of just getting one at a time is to keep up at your trolling speed until you get multiple rods hooked up with fish. Then start to slow back down and fight your fish. And our average yellowfin tuna is running about 35 to 55 pounds right now. Now, we had the Eddie Dwyer's Other Side Tournament Invitational the other day, Saturday, and we have our first photo of a tuna that was the winning tuna in that, and it was caught aboard the Come On. That tuna weighed 75.4 pounds. Wow. And then the second fish that we've got a picture of is a gigantic 71.4 pound dolphin.
Wow.
Boat called the float switch in the same tournament. And this one, I haven't got verification on it yet, but it may be a possible Port Canaveral record, and it often ever caught in the other side tournament. So this are two outstanding catches right there.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Wow, good stuff, Jim. All right, what else you got for us offshore?
Well, we've got amberjack. You know, the prominent reef structures in about 180 to 260 feet of water are holding the amberjack right now. Big live baits like blue runners, bluefish, croakers, grunts, you know, those are all great baits. Any kind of a larger bait, it's going to keep it away from the snapper and that are down there and allow the amberjack to get it. Now, amberjack do not get the nicknames that they have because they just roll over once they're hooked. So, you know, these guys are true ocean athletes. So be prepared. If you're going to go amberjack fishing, this is like hand-to-hand combat. You know, it's tough. You have to bring some backbone and some muscle to pull these things up. Most of our fish are running about 25 to 40 pounds, and the best thing that you can catch them on is either a 16 to 24 ounce deep jig with a whole ballyhoo or a belly strip on it, or a 9 to 16 ounce vertical speed jig. That's what those reef donkeys are hitting for those guys that like to do a little bit of aggressive jigging up and down off of some of the wrecks. Now, swinging inshore, redfish are starting to show back up in better numbers throughout the region. Most of the fish are cruising mangrove-covered shorelines along the eastern side of the Banana River and the Indian River right now. You want to sight cast or free line live shrimp or a live finger mullet to these fish, and most of them, when they see it, they'll pretty much pounce on it. So it's not hard to get them to bite. It's just the presentation has to be perfect because a lot of the times they're up under the mangroves. Saltwater assassin makes a 4-inch sea shad that you all know that I love so much, and that northern minnow and purple moon and the Mama's 14K colors are working really good on the redfish right now. Now, most of our reds are running about 18 to 25 inches throughout the lagoon system, and of course we do have some larger ones. Last species is snook, and we've had a ton of rain. I mean, and the snook are moving all over the place right now because of it. Some of the guys are finding them in and around docks and mangroves. Some of them are finding them around creek outflows and culvert pipes that are flowing into the lagoon system right now. And then if you're looking for bigger fish, obviously good places to try are the inlets. But if you're wanting to stay inside, because we've had a lot of wind and rain lately, Vero Beach to Wabasso right now, and then again from Oak Hill to New Smyrna, those are the two best places to get out there and find some snook. And, you know, persistence pays. Keep moving around until you find them. Once you do, a live shrimp or a live pinfish, just pitch it to them 2 or 3 times. If they don't hit it the first time, and they'll normally pounce on it. Captain Glenn Austin sent me a great picture here with his angler Scott Kanua from Iowa of a nice snook that they caught just this past week down in the Sebastian area.
All right, Jim, good to see you tonight. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Rodan Marine hotspots from the Central East region. Jim says that inshore, the mangrove snapper around the bridges, dock pilings, and oyster bars from Ponce Inlet to Edgewater use live shrimp or small pilchards for bait. And then offshore, amberjacks and grouper on the high relief structures in 160 to 200 feet of water use live baits or large jigs for the fish to 40 pounds.
And don't forget your big guns for those AJs.
That's right.
They don't roll over like Jim says. All right, the Garmin Panhandle region is crawling, or swimming rather, with some big tuna of all kinds. So let's listen in to Captain Pat Deneen on his report for a yummy weekend forecast.
Hey, Brie, I tell you, the Florida Panhandle and the northern Gulf of Mexico in particular have some really good tuna fishing. The tunas can be caught year-round, but spring and fall are probably the best. Possibilities include bluefin tunas, yellowfins, big-eye tunas, and blackfins. Monster bluefin tunas are here spring through early summer. This year, several were caught and released, or were actually caught and taken before the season closed about a week and a half ago. But just this past weekend, a big one was caught and released. Typically, the bluefins are caught while live baiting for marlin, using blackfin tunas for bait, although some are caught on the troll. But the yellowfin tunas are probably the most sought after of the tunas, and the deep water floating rigs are the most dependable places to catch them. Chunking or live baiting are the two most common ways to target yellowfins at the rigs. And finally, the blackfin tunas are probably the most accessible. They're often being caught within 20 miles of shore. Usually the best blackfin tuna action happens in the fall along the southwest break or the south break. Although some seasons they're pretty common just off the beach, and quite a few of them are caught off the piers. This spring, the Navarre Pier for about a week was really good blackfin tuna fishing. And there's a photo there. It's a 160-pound yellowfin caught this past weekend, a week and a half ago, with Captain Joey Berg on the You Never Know. Man, that right there is a lot of sushi.
Yeah, it is. You never know, though. I do.
Never know. That's right. Hey, staying offshore rig, May, June, great times to be blue water fishing, and there's some pretty water offshore right now. The blue water is pushed up into the spur, the squiggles, around the Ozark, and offshore the steps. You want to pay attention to satellite imagery and dock reports to find out where the latest hot areas are. Pull a mixed spread of ballyhoo, Spanish mackerel, and lures, and look for any surface conditions, slicks, grass, debris, logs that tend to concentrate bait and pelagics. Areas like color changes and temperature breaks, and certainly weed lines, all great places to be pulling baits. Trolling offshore in the Gulf, your first might be from a chicken dolphin, and the next might be from a several 100-pound blue marlin. So back to you never know what's going to be next. Moving inshore, speckled trout fishing has been good day or night. Daytime, the best bet is early morning or late in the afternoon using live bait on the flats. You want to cast net some small pogies or pilchards, live chum liberally on the flat, especially flats with deep water nearby or near points or grassy bottom outside of bayous. Usually 4 to 6 foot of water is a pretty standard go-to depth. With that being said, probably the easiest trout fishing, especially with the summer boat traffic going on right now, may be at night. So hit those residential dock lights. You want a free line of live shrimp, a spot minnow, a pilchard on light 12-pound leader. Approach the light from up current, stake out or stop or anchor, and drift your live bait through the light, and you should get a bite. And then finally, the tarpon have been hot on the west coast of Florida, and they are on their way up here. East of Apalachicola, tarpon are showing up around the Carabelli area. There's a few showing up along our beach. Each week, more and more fish are going to show up on our western beaches, from basically Panama City to Pensacola. Currently, you may only find 1 or 2 schools on these western Panhandle beaches, so when you find them, treat them right, don't step on them, and you should have some really valid chances of getting a bite. I like live baiting them with 50 or 60 pound fluorocarbon leaders, a 7 to 8 aught trocar circle hook, and it's pretty straight up fishing.
All right, Pat.
There's a reminder, Rick, the CCA Star Tournament. Trout and tarpon are 2 of those eligible species for the CCA Florida Star Tournament. It starts July 1st, runs through October 4th. The 100-day tournament offers over $500,000 in prizes for 17 species. And, you don't need to catch the biggest one to win. It's all about catching the species and entering it, and then letting the cards fall. For more information, go to the CCAFloridaStar.com.
All right, good job tonight, Pat Tar. We appreciate it very much. Time for the Blue Water Outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region. Inshore, speckled trout under the dock lights. Use the light leader and some small live baits will catch those speckled trout. And then offshore, pretty water at the squiggles. Troll mixed spread for blue water pelagics.
Okay, everyone. The first CCA Florida Coastal Social Virtual Banquet was so popular that they are back with the CCA Coastal Social, The Art of Fishing Edition that will run from June 4th to June 7th. The silent auction will feature all the great CCA items you're used to, plus original artwork and fishing adventures with the best marine artists and guides in the industry. The bidding starts at 8 a.m. on June 4th via the GiveSmart mobile app. So for more information on how to participate, go to their Facebook page, Coastal Conservation Association Florida. And I participated in the first one, and it was so much fun.
So I'm going to give you a little secret, guys. Some of the original first Guy Harvey's ever, the Old Man in the Sea, the first one he ever did, is going to be part of this auction.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'll be there. Virtually.
All right.
Okay, the reports are making me drool and quite honestly a little sickle to my stomach over here. And they're not even over yet. So hang on, the best is yet to come in the Casa Vieja Southeast region. No. And at the CCA Workbench, we're seeing the best of the best for new products that will be sure to make you drool, right, Dave?
That's right. I got the best seat in the house right here, man.
Yeah,
Nice harness from Seamount. We're going to talk about it.
Looks so comfy.
It is very comfy. It looks comfy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it do.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Ameritrail. Load. Launch. Relax. Real Legends. Exclusively at Bell's. Okuma. Inspired Fishing. Discover Crystal River, Florida. And Maverick Boat Group. Makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
At the pinnacle of super high output, 4-stroke outboard performance, you'll find Yamaha VMAX SHO, Yamaha's game-changing SHO technology. From exhilarating V6 models to the sleek inline 4s, there's a VMAX SHO for everything from bass to bonefish. It's an extended family of 4-strokes engineered for lightweight, inspiring performance, and rock-solid reliability. Discover VMAX SHO and elevate your expectations.
You sons of fishes. Ain't enough fish on this lake for 2 clubs.
Really? Well, we see plenty of fish live with Panoptics.
Yep. Dang! We should get Panoptics. Maybe we'll just take yours.
What's going on here? You boys have license?
Yes, sir.
Nope.
There he is. Oh, I got him.
Deep within Key Largo, you'll see things that may surprise you. From the unspoiled wilderness of the Florida Everglades to the tranquility of John Pennekamp State Park, look below the surface and you'll find more depth in Key Largo in the Florida Keys.
Well, Dave, you did an unbelievable job in those CCA rigs and techniques, but I want to tell you, you got some really big shoes to fill over here at the workbench for the products, but I can't
You're setting me up. You're putting your mouth all over it, aren't you?
Oh, yes, sir.
I'll probably be chewing my tongue off here before this is over. Anyway, this is a Grand Slam GS 390. Obviously, it's an outrigger mount for a center console boat, and this is a really, really nice one. It's very robust. It's made out of cast stainless. It's got a giant handle on it. I mean, you could get your biggest fella you got on the boat and practically hang on it and do pull-ups on that thing. I wouldn't try it, but still, it's hard. And like I said,
Taco makes some really cool stuff.
Taco Grand Slams, and these are made for 1.5-inch outriggers. You know, that's the diameter up there. And you can not only can you swing them out, but as you're doing right now, you can raise and lower the outriggers without having to climb up on the gunnel and reaching up there and messing with some little knob or something to put your outriggers up and down. You know,
the cool part is when you're idling in, we have these on the Contender. When we're idling in, now we already have the outriggers in place, but we drop them down so that when we get to the dock, we don't have that stuff to do when we pull the boat out.
Yeah. They're perfect for a 25 to 40-foot center console. You know, that elevation crank is really cool, and they're sleek, and they come with a really nice looking, and they come with a 3-year warranty.
Yeah,
so.
And you can get graphite poles.
Whatever the kind of poles that'll fit 1.5, you can get Taco poles to fit it. So
all right,
get out there and get that Grand Slam GS 390.
Yep.
All right, next we got these fish bites, Bob's Your Uncle scented strips, and what these are pretty much is a curly tail fish bite, and it takes the place of like a Josh's pork rind.
Uncle Josh.
Curly tail, the Uncle Josh's pork rind that we used to use, the frog and the curly tail. Well, these are just as tough. They're incredibly tough, and they're impregnated with all that same fish bite goodness that will make a fish hang on and smell that thing and get a hold of it. So
come in a variety of colors.
All different colors, maximum action, great for cobia, grouper, snapper. You put it on a rig. It's also good for freshwater fishing. You could put it on a big chatterbait or something else, any kind of big jig to make it even better. And there comes 8 baits in a jar, and you know they'll last you a long, long time. It says on there not to put one that you've used back in there. But, you know, if you ate of them.
Tastes like potatoes.
8 of them will last a long time. You say that.
Fishbites.com and tacomarine.com, right?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, next we got the Startron enzyme fuel treatment that's concentrated. That's a marine formula, actually. that 1 fluid ounce will treat 16 gallons of gas. So that thing will treat 128 gallons, that little bottle right there. It does everything. It rejuvenates old gas. It'll let you store gas up to 2 years, which is important. Here in Florida, it's hurricane season, June 1st coming up. And it's, if you're having your weed eaters and your generators and all that stuff laying around,
right,
you want to make sure you put some enzyme fuel treatment in there and make sure everything will start up and run for you, because it cleans out your whole fuel system and makes everything run cleaner and more fuel efficient. And
yeah, we run this in all our cars.
Everything I've got,
boats,
everything I've got is always full of it.
Because the gas never goes bad with that.
Never.
Over in the Bahamas, we treat all our fuels perfect.
Right. Next and not least here, last, we got Charles Perry Pro Bucket Harness by Seamount. Charles Perry is a good friend of mine. He's one of the best wiremen in the world. He's known all over the world for wiring big, giant tunas and marlins. And this is his version of a good bucket harness. Now, when you're fishing in a fighting chair,
right,
you don't sit on that hard wooden chair and fight the fish. What they have is a thing called a bucket harness that you sit in that actually attaches to the reel.
Right.
The rod goes into a gimbal in the chair,
right,
and this attaches to the reel, and you're attached to the rod and reel.
And your legs are on the footrest.
And your legs are on the footrest. And this is a very comfortable version of one of these. A lot of them don't have a very stiff back, and they'll collapse on you when you get a lot of drag. The whole thing will crush on you. So this has a nice back on the back. It's got this X back that has this ribbing in here, so it adds extra strength. It's got this nice memory foam all around it on the inside here, so it's nice and soft on the person. Fully adjustable, and it's just one pull. You put these things out, and you put the person in the chair, hook up, and just give this a jerk until you get the thing how you want it to be.
And this is designed, Dave, to slide on the varnish of the chair?
Actually, you don't want it to be sliding.
You don't want it to be sliding?
No, if you're doing this right, you're going to have the stiff leg method, and you're going to have him pull you out of the chair and go back down. You wind up and then come back down. Sliding back and forth in that soap, that's nothing to give you nothing but a rash and a pain in your legs.
And a pain in your...
Exactly. How many leg presses can you do with 200 pounds?
I know Brie can do a lot.
So many. You know what? Who said fishing can't be glamorous with that? That looks mighty comfy.
Very nice.
All right, amigos, it's tuna time in the Casa Vieja Southeast region, and I know Captain Jimbo can put us on him like he did with our RM Media crew on the Thomas Flyer, right, Jimbo?
That's correct, Brie, and hello, Rick and Dave. Well, the two most common types of tuna that we catch here in the southeast region are blackfin and yellowfins. And unfortunately, we don't see too many yellowfins. But in February, March, and April, there's usually some bluefin sightings, but they're also usually not targeted. When we do see them, they usually bite 20-pound tests, and it doesn't last too long. But the blackfins, which are the most common tunas that we find here in the southeast region, we find them throughout the year, but late April through mid-July is when we catch the most and the biggest blackfins, which is right now. But we can generally get the blackfins to bite throughout the day, but since they are low-light feeders, early in the morning, then late in the afternoon, up until dark are the best times to target them, as well as on days with overcast. Now, in the past week, blackfin bite's been on fire with fish in the 20 to 30 pound range, and they're being caught throughout the region, and we've been fishing with live herrings, pilchards, sardines. You can put goggle eyes too, fish them under the kite or on the flat lines. You want to fish in anywhere from 100 to 200 foot range. And aboard the Thomas Flyer, we've been using 20 pound tackle for these blackfins, 30 to 40 pound fluorocarbon leaders, and 5.0 to 6.0 trocar circle hooks. Now, if you can catch enough bait to live chum with, if you can fill that live well up with pilchards, you can live chum, you can really get those tunas fired up. Now, there's also been a few blackfins caught on the troll using rig baits, small feathers, and lures, but the fish caught on the troll have not been near as big as the fish that we're catching on the live baits. Now, I got a photo here. First one, this 25-pounder is one of the many nice blackfins that we've caught aboard the Thomas Flyer in the last week. Caught that fish last Saturday. Mm-hmm. And then the second photo here, we had another great tuna day with the whole crew from the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Nice.
And I think
Looks
we
like
caught 4 or 5 of them. We're still eating sushi, I think.
Yeah. All right. Good job there, Cap.
All right, well, staying offshore, the sailfish bite's been excellent in the past week with quite a few double-digit catches. and releases. Now the sales, they've been coming through anywhere from 100 to 300 feet of water. They've been biting on live goggle eyes, herrings, pilchards, and sardines, fished under the kite or on the drift, but the kite has definitely been getting more bites than on the drift. Now, most of the bites have been in areas with blue water and north current, although we have seen and caught quite a few of them in that greener water. And also, you want to keep an eye out for any free jumping sails. If you can get lined up with those, get a bait up in front of them, there's a great chance of getting at least a single or even a multiple hookup. Now, moving inshore, tarpon fish has been really good throughout the whole region. All of the inlets and their adjacent beaches have been alive with tarpon up to 100 pounds or bigger. Now, on the north end of the region, a live mullet is a preferred bait, and to the south, live crabs. That's definitely been what's on the menu. Now, tide hasn't been much of a factor when you're fishing the inlets, just so long as that water's moving. Then all of the bridges of the ICW have also been holding tarpon, and they've been feeding on both live crabs and live baits, as well as artificials. And the bridges, they've been best at night. You want to fish the shadow lines on the outgoing tides. And those inlets, they've been best early in the mornings and into the evenings. And then we got some permit on the flats in the south end of the region. And with this upcoming full moon we should start seeing some extreme low and high tides. And those permit, they're usually going to be favoring the outgoing tide. You want to look for hard bottom flats that have lots of water flow, anywhere from Soldier's Key south to Broad Creek. And most of these fish, they've been swimming versus tailing, and you want to use a live crab, get it right in front of their path. That'll usually get a bite. Or if you're really brave, you can try casting a crab pattern fly up in front of them. And since most of this is sight fishing, you want to wait for the sun to come up to get some good visibility, say between 9 in the morning up to 3 in the afternoon. And if there's any overcast conditions, try working over light-colored bottoms so you can see those fish a little better. And most of these fish have been in the 12 to 25-pound range.
All right, great report, Jimbo. It's time to take a look at the R&R tackle hotspots from the Casa Vieja Southeast region. He says inshore, drift live shrimp or crabs through the inlet for early morning and evening tarpon. And then offshore, we're going to go drift or kite fishing with live baits on 90 to 300 feet of water for sailfish, kingfish, blackfin tunas, and occasional mahi.
You know, fishing with Jimbo, we never get to go really as a company, and that was so much fun. We caught a couple of schoolie dolphin, a couple of big tuna. It was a really great day. Did you see my tuna trot?
I did.
It goes like this, kind of. I was so happy. Oh. Okay, we want to remind you about the Yamaha Spring Sales event going on now through June 15th. Your savings could include up to $500 in dealer credit for 2.5 to 75 HP models, 2 extra years of warranty for 90 to 300 models, and 1 extra year of warranty on 350 models. So for more details on how you can save, go to YamahaOutboards.com. All right, look alive, my Startron Central West and Bell's Southwest anglers. We're bringing you your captains and reports next, but before we go, remember to keep up with everything fishing in Florida. Visit our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram and tag us in your photos, and subscribe to our YouTube page, Captain Rick Murphy. That's enough of me. We'll be right back.
All right.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Startron, cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. Alvy Reels, a better way to fish. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 30 years. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing, book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Finding a shoreline is easy. Finding a sure thing is not. For over 20 years, anglers from Kitty Hawk to California and every shore in between have come to know one thing: that nothing says no to fish bites. So just stop with the fishing and get busy with the catching. Ask for Fish Bites or Fish Bites Fight Club lures or visit fishbites.com.
Come explore untouched Florida, where you'll step into holy sea cow and fish pristine waters where you'll reel in, whoa! Come discover Crystal River with exciting adventures and incredible surprises everywhere. From exhilarating river adventures to scalloping in the Gulf to delicious fish to fork cuisine, this is the place where you can relax into Just a short drive from Tampa and Orlando is the amazing Discover Crystal River, Florida. Learn more at discovercrystalriverfl.com.
Most of us have been out on the water in a situation like this, and you often find that you start saying to yourself, what should I do? Go out or stay home? It's a tough call, as I always want to go, but I don't want to get clobbered by a storm or get soaked. I don't want my fishing buddies to rib me for soaking them either. I don't have radar on my boat. I don't have a cabin for shelter, and my hardtop doesn't cover very much. When I go out fishing, I'm often either offshore or in the backcountry where my cell signal is seriously compromised or non-existent. Does this sound familiar? Here's a simple and effective solution: SiriusXM Marine Weather. They offer features like satellite-delivered radar that show you the location and the intensity of storms and lightning strike locations with this service. Not only do you have the information that you make an educated decision before you leave the dock, but you also, while you're out on the water, where to go to avoid the storm. And it's all right on your boat's display. Even folks with onboard radar can only see so deep into the storm system. But SiriusXM Marine gives me a bird's eye view of all the weather around me and what may be headed my way several hours from now, so I can make a better decision about my plans. To get a free 2-month trial of SiriusXM Weather, visit SiriusXM.com/FIFR.
And Lord knows we need that now more than ever. That was really great, Rick.
Well, thank you.
Well, thanks for joining me.
All
right, Captain Jeff Page has his best on for you and is ready to give you the lowdown on what you'll be hooking up to this weekend. Hey, Page.
Hey, y'all. That SiriusXM has really been a great feature onto my Pathfinder, and I can't say enough good about it. And you get the Sirius music, too, so it's a win-win. Anyway, in the tuna family, our number one tuna is the blackfin tuna. Not to say that there's not other species, but the blackfin tuna usually shows up in numbers around our region, anywhere from late March right through the summer. And this year has been a really good season. Plentiful everywhere from 50 feet of water on out. Rick, the key's been wherever the big schools of bait. It can be threadfin, Spanish sardines, even glass minnows. You're going to find them. For a while there was some cruise ships that were anchored up outside Egmont Pass, and they were gathered up around that because that was structure for the bait to hold on. Pretty much anywhere the bait is, you're going to find them, and you can troll lip plugs through them. You can cast jigs at them. But one of the best ways to fish for them is to set up with your anchor or your spot lock on your Rodan trolling motor and start bottom fishing, and then put out a few flat lines and even throw out a little bit of chum, some wounded thread fins or pilchards. And it's not a bad idea to cork one just to keep an idea of where he's at. And you're going to pick up a blackfin tuna. It's been going on all summer, and with all the little bit of rain we had, look for it to continue. We do get a few yellowfins, Rick, in our region, but they're way out. I'm talking out there in the middle grounds on out. It all has to do with color change and temperature breaks and all that stuff that really only your big boats are going to get to. I have a couple of really good blackfin photos tonight. from our good friend Captain Jason Stock of Full Send Charters out of Anna Maria with 2 separate clients, real nice tuna photos.
Nice, Paige. Good job on the photos. All right, let's go offshore. What do you got?
Permit. You know, Rick, we've had a lot of east wind days lately, and what that does is that it allows that Gulf to settle down. Permits have been showing up in as close as the 3-mile artificial reefs, but for sure on the 5 and 7s. And they're all on your charts. They're all on your maps. It's not some secret reef. It's something that anybody can get to. The key is don't go out there unless you have at least a dozen crabs. And the good news is the afternoon outgoing tides in all your passes from Gasparilla Pass all the way up to Longboat Pass has been really good crab dipping, and it's fun. I took the girls the other night. We had 3 crab nets, and we dipped 20 crabs in about 2 hours. And we let a lot of the permit-sized crabs go by. We were tarpon crab dipping. So it's real easy to dip your crabs. You don't have to worry about buying them. Get out there, again, set up with your trolling motor on the spot lock, stay off the reef, and cast maybe a couple in free line, put a split shot on a couple, and you're gonna hook up on the permits. Got a permit photo tonight of Cody Richata and Ashley Edwards with Captain Larry Maroney of Hang Time Charters out of Bradenton.
Cool.
Moving inshore tarpon fishing is in full swing throughout the entire region with guys catching fish, not only in Boca Grande Pass, but all along the beaches from Little Gasparilla Pass all the way up to the Venice Jetty, and then in the north part of our region from Fort DeSoto Park back down to Anna Maria Island, also known as Bean Point. On the inside, fish are in the pass at Egmont Key and also on the inside of Egmont Key during the day, and there's still good numbers of fish at the Skyway Bridge. Rick, thread fins have been working real well, dead or alive, and then you can also put a cork on a live thread fin or on a crab or even a pinfish. And a little trick you taught me a long time ago, with the water as clear as it is, I've been downsizing my leader to even 40-pound fluorocarbon matched up with a 7.0 Trocor Eagle Claw circle hook, and I'm not having a lot of breakups. I got nothing but good to say about that Trocor hook. And I've got a tarpon photo tonight of DNR Automotives, Cody Richata again with Captain Larry. They caught the permit earlier and they caught the tarpon later in the afternoon.
Tell me about the redfish quick, bub.
Right, as you know, everybody's out chasing tarpons, so the redfish have been pretty much left to just a few of us, and it's been really good on the higher stages of the tide, Terracea Bay as well as Joe Bay. Live pilchards, pinfish, or even cut ladyfish chunks have been great. If you like throwing lures, 1/4 ounce gold spoon or a soft plastic like the Golden Brim 4-inch saltwater assassin on an 1/8 ounce jig head. And my last photo tonight is of Reese and Parker Landsberg of Mosquito Mist Bradenton. And that's my report tonight. And thank you guys for another great Florida Insider Fishing Report.
All right, good job, Captain Page. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the daiquiri deck hotspots from the Startron Central West region. He says that inshore, look for tarpon along the beaches from Venice Fishing Pier south to Stump Pass. Use free line or corked crabs and thread fins is the best bet. And then offshore, lots of red snapper holding over the ledges and hard bottom areas and 130 to 150 feet of water off of Bradenton Beach, Brie.
Okay, speaking of daiquiri deck, we want to remind you that all daiquiri deck locations are open for business, so head on over to pick up some scrumptious food, beverages, and of course, refreshing daiquiris to go. Those look so good. All right, we're making our way into the Bell's Southwest region where Captain Ronnie Houston has the inside scoop for some tuna bites. Talk to us, Ronnie.
What you got, Ronnie?
Like always, Brie, it's always a pleasure representing the Bell's Southwest region. But you know what? According to Captain Mike Gavanon, he has a couple different methods of catching tuna in the region. He said once he gets out past 100 feet, he simply looks for birds, large bait pods, and bonita schools busting the surface. When he finds any of those things going on, they'll troll the area using feathers or actually free line a couple of live baits like thread fins or cigar minnows. You know, it's basically the same up to the north with Captain Corey McGuire to the north. He will look for the same type pattern, bait, birds, and bonita schools. And he will also troll lip plugs 4 to 6 inches, and he prefers them to dive anywhere from about 15 to 25 feet, and he's saying troll them at about 5 to 7 miles an hour. Now, he says once he hooks up, he stops the boat, and it's a lot different up in the northern end with those guys, and he proceeds to chum live white bait in order to keep the fish in the area while he's fighting the tunas. That way, once he lands a fish, he doesn't have to keep searching for the pattern. He typically keeps the fish around him. These fish will also travel with groups of kingfish, and both captains tell me while those guys are anchored up grouper fishing, they'll also have a spinning outfit, especially on those calm days, free-lined with a thread grin, cigar minnow, or a pilchard, while they're grouper fishing on the bottom. And I got a nice picture of a tuna caught in the region while fishing with Captain Mike Avedon.
Nice.
Now, still on the offshore side, the Cobias. Captain Brian Sanders from Pavilion Key down the Lostman's River, and then also Pavilion Key to Wiggins Pass, fishing towers, wrecks, and artificial reefs as close as 7 miles and out to 25 miles. Now, you want to make sure we have moderate weather, especially venturing out, especially with all the rains we've had in the last 5 days. You can simply anchor up and use pilchards to chum the area to possibly draw the fish up, or drop down live pilchards or pinfish, or run a variety of wrecks looking for the fish on top, or look for them on your bottom finder. Now, also, if you can't find the bait, fan casting chugging lures on top may possibly draw the fish up to the surface. And like I say, if you can't find bait, 4 to 6 inch swim baits like the Bass Assassin die doppers will work. Please make sure you use a good hook and have a strong jig head. I've got a nice picture of a cobia caught down to the south while fishing with Captain Brian Sanders, while fishing with CCA member Denny down in the southern end. Now, on the inshore side, the snook. Captain Brian Sanders reports snook fishing has picked up on the Outer Gulf from Pavilion Key down the Lostman's River, the Outer Gulf Islands. He's telling me on the last half of the incoming to the first half of the outgoing. But the most important thing is water movement is the most important. He tells me he's been using live herring and pilchards, free line, and or on an Anaka rig. But I've been fishing the middle bays due to the heavy rains we've had in the last week. We've been getting from Pumpkin Bay to Lane Cove, and I'm concentrating at the feeder creeks that dump out on low water into the middle bays where these fish are gathered up at the mouth. Now, with all the rains we've been having, there's also juvenile tarpon mixed in, and I'm using bright-colored walk-the-dog lures, as well as the Bass Assassin 4-inch sea shads in white, due to the tannic water coming out of the creeks on a quarter-ounce jig head. And I got another picture of CCA member KK fishing with Captain Brian Sanders down in the southern end of the region. Now, the redfish up to the north, according to Captain Danny Latham and Corey McGuire, bite has still been consistent up on Bull and Turtle Bay, also 2 Pines to the smokehouse area on the higher stages of the tide. Those guys are telling me cut baits, live pilchards up against the mangroves, but he says on the lower stages of the tide, look for these fish to be out in the potholes and the troughs, waiting to make their way up to the bushes. And with the recent rains over the last few days, I've been fishing over up to the north. I've been fishing some of those same areas, but I was using a variety of Bass Assassin sea shads and Houdini and Copperfield blind casting at low water in the potholes and troughs before the water got high. Then also searching with walk-the-dog lures, bone-colored walk-the-dog lures, and quarter-ounce gold spoons. And I got another picture of a nice redfish with lifetime CCA member Ron Houston fishing up in the northern end of the region.
That's my man, Life member. I got a quick question for you, Ronnie. You know, what size leader are you using for those snook with that tannic water? Are you having a downsize, or are you still using a traditional 60?
No, you know what? I am downsizing, especially with the walk-the-dog lures, because if I go any heavier, the lure doesn't work right. But then also in the tannic water or the clear water, I've been having a lot of luck on that diamond fluorocarbon pink. It's been great for me since I've been using it, so I'm still going to continue to mess around with the 40. If I get some break-offs, I will move up, but as of right now, that 40-pound diamond is doing a good job.
All right, Ronnie, thank you so much. Great report. It's time to look at the Caddy Can Southwest hotspots. Ronnie says juvenile tarpon, Buttonwood Bay to Russell Key, fishing the mouth of the feeder creeks that dump out into the middle bays. And then offshore, Permit, Naples to Sanibel, fishing wrecks and artificial reefs using live crabs, Brie.
I love Ronnie's little cameo today.
Oh,
that was cute.
He's got to snuck a picture.
He said Ronnie. He didn't say me.
Yeah.
I love him. Okay, stay hooked for a little longer, my Floridians, because we're headed to the Discover Crystal River Northeast region, Northwest region next. Wow, we'll be right back.
All right.
Hey.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. The IGFA. Fish for the world. Sportsman's Adventures, fishing for adventure, and Bells, everything you need to live life local.
When you live on an island, surrounded by warm, clear water, and a million ways to enjoy it, it's amazing you'll ever have time to come up for air. Key West. Close to perfect. Far from normal.
Some work can't stop because our communities need you, which is why we're working to keep you working, to help you keep homes and properties maintained, your farm running, and construction moving. Your work is essential, and we're here to help. Together, we will get through this. Take advantage of 0% financing on Kubota equipment. No payments for 90 days. Offer expires May 31st.
Florida Coast Equipment, Florida's largest Kubota dealer.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
Have you ever felt your heart pounding while feeling the power of a tarpon in the Florida Keys? Or experienced the changing colors of a mahi as you bring it on board? Whether it's in the Bahamas, the Florida Keys, Guatemala, or the Florida Everglades, Murphy's Law Sports Fishing has the ability to guide you to the fish of a lifetime. To book your trip today, call 305-246-0673 or go to murphyslawsportfishing.com.
Today's Power Pole tip, we're talking wireless remote controls. The Power Pole comes out of the box with two remote controls, a wireless key fob and a wireless dash switch. This dash switch is very smart. It has the ability to operate both power poles. If you have duals, you can operate your left one or your right one or both together. It also has this little speedometer here to change the poles from fast, medium, and slow depending on your fishing situation. As always, all our remote controls have auto deployment up and down. If you double tap any remote control, the pole will automatically come up, or double tap the down button and it'll go automatically down. We added a new feature to the Sea Monster app. If you go into System Configuration and you hit your remote controls, you can scroll up, change any of those remotes from a double tap to a single tap, which is really nice and fast when you're out on the water. That's your Power Pole tip.
Okay, in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region, frigates are saying, now sashimi, now you don't. And Captain Jeff Hageman is on the line to tell us what they're chasing.
It's getting bad.
It's getting good.
Oh
Go ahead, Jeff.
Absolutely love that. Right now, it's a good time to go catch them. Most of them are blackfins right now, with the occasional yellowfin. Most of the fish, most of the blackfins anyway, are out 80 feet of water and out. And you do want to keep an eye out for those frigate birds, especially on your way out fishing. Look for the bait. The frigate birds will tell you where they're at. You can catch them behind shrimp boats, where they're dumping their bycatch. That's a great way to catch them. You are going to catch them bycatch doing that. There'll be a bunch of bonita in there and some sharks too. But if you get in there and throw some chum and look real heavily, if it doesn't have a bunch of blackfins on it, you can move on to the next one. And hopefully the next one will have a bunch of them on it. Also, we catch them on high relief structures like wrecks out in deep water and 100 feet plus is a great way to do it too. As far as baits go, thread fins, sardines are great baits. Artificials, butterfly jigs work really well on the wrecks and behind the shrimp boats. So that's a great little thing to have in your arsenal. As far as the yellowfins go, you want to get up to 150 plus feet of water. 150 miles out on our coast. Trolling naked ballyhoo, big lip plugs, cedar plugs, and trundlers are the way to go for them. And again, keep an eye out for those frigate birds. What we also have right now offshore is the mangrove snapper bite has been really good throughout the region. Remains strung over rock piles, ledges, and live rock bottom in anywhere from 30 to 70 feet of water. Live sardines and shrimp are the way to go with a knocker rig. 25 to 30 pound fluorocarbon leader, 1 to 3 ounces of lead, and a 1/0 circle hook has been working best, and our fish are averaging anywhere from 2 to 4 pounds right now. Moving inshore, Captain John Lane of JB Charters out of Apalachicola reports the triple tail bite has been really on fire right now, and they're feeding mostly on the outgoing tide midday. Look for any kind of floating debris or just the triple tail out there floating in the middle of the bay. He's been having good success right now on popping corks with 18 inches of fluorocarbon, a 2/0 circle hook, and a fresh dead shrimp. And I've got a great photo of a nice pair of triple tails from Captain John.
Nice.
Nice fish there.
Nice. All right, keep going, bub. What else you got?
Captain Mario Costello out of Tall Tales Charters out of the plantation in on Crystal River reports a good snook bite right now on the rocky shorelines from Crystal River to Yankeetown. He's freelining either a pinfish live pinfish on a 4/0 circle hook, and he's throwing either that or a 1/4 ounce jig with a shad tail on the outgoing tube. The snook right now ranging anywhere from 25 to 32 inches with the occasional monster mixed in the set. And I've got a nice snook photo there from Mario of a nice slot-sized snook.
Nice. Hag, I got a couple.
The tarpon bite is going really good throughout the region. A lot of crabs right now. First thing in the morning and late afternoon, that midday bite's been slowing down because our water is so clear.
So I got a co-ed question for you there, bub. You ready?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the protocol when you're on a school of tarpon. How do you approach them? How do you pass them off to another guy? Let's talk a little bit about some etiquette while we're early in the season.
When you get out on the beach, you really want to watch your other anglers out there and try not to, fly down the beach. If you're going to idle down the beach, that's fine. Usually first thing in the morning, I try to get real close to the beach. There's usually no bathers out there. And I can see out, and I'm not really running over the fish, and I can idle down the beach and look for schools of fish. If somebody else is on them, you can idle out around them or try and be really quiet and throw a motor past them and get on to the next school of fish. If somebody hooks up, you can also wait for them to get done pulling their fish out of the school and move in on the school of fish that way. But you really don't want to come in on a guy that's got a school of fish, he's working, he's got a better chance of hooking up and catching a fish without you adding pressure to it. And then once he hooks a fish, you can go in there and you'll have the school to yourself and have a better chance of catching one too.
All right, well, thank you for clearing that up. And we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Alto equipment hotspots from the Northwest region. He says inshore, snook bite in the lower region and the outgoing tide, use pinfish and sardines, and then offshore, mangrove snapper and 30 to 70 feet of water over the high relief structure. You're gonna use a tailhook jumbo shrimp or a sardine for bait, Brie.
You like my now you sashimi?
Oh yeah,
don't?
man.
That was
Oh,
good,
yeah,
right?
boy.
It's only getting better.
It's only getting better.
Better.
Keep telling
All
yourself
right,
that.
I
Love.
am. Tuna is one of my favorites to catch and eat, and we're all prepared to do so for the weekend. But when we come back, we're telling you what will be on your dinner plate next weekend. So stay tuned into the Florida Insider Fishing
Report.
Reliability. Yamaha is legendary for it. But it's more than a legend. It's something boaters have come to value. Why? Because it's rare. Because in this fast-paced, single-use world, few things are built to last. So when we find something that is, we hold on for dear life, to friendships, to traditions, to outboards. Because it's the lucky few who get to spend as much time on the water as they'd like. The rest of us, we look forward to those precious few days. That makes every second sacred. Every moment mean that much more. And it drives us to wring the most of every minute we get on the water, having incredible adventures, fighting the fish, making unforgettable memories. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters choose Yamaha for the long run, for life. Because reliability starts here.
What started in the flats and bays has migrated offshore. GPS-guided trolling motor technology has moved to boats in the 35-plus foot class and allowed anchoring capabilities on most center consoles in any depth of water, from snook and redfish inshore to grouper and swordfish way out deep. Rodan Marine Systems has a GPS anchor to hold your vessel on location. Set it, forget it, catch more fish.
The only reel with over 100 years of heritage. Alvi Sidecast reels allow you to cast over 150 yards with up to 900 yards of capacity. Alvi's state-of-the-art drag and 22-inch retrieve rate per wine is perfect for any surf challenge. Alvi reels are manufactured to best practice standards and are in fact so robust that the Alvi also comes with a 10-year salt and sand warranty. For more information, go to alvius.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Next week, we are talking dolphin.
Your favorite offshore
fish. They're so beautiful and so good to eat. So make sure you tune in. And I just want to say, they do pull hard.
You want to say what?
YouTube, Captain Rick Murphy. When we went fishing with Jimbo Thomas, we have a little 8-minute clip of our day, as well as the Florida Insider Fishing Report and lots of other fishing adventures that we post on the Captain Rick Murphy YouTube page. So make sure you head over there and check that out. And we thank you guys for tuning in today. Go out there and catch some big tuna. And we'll see you next week. Good job, Dave.
And Brie, you and all your
are great. We're wonderful.